right. Hello, everyone. Will Middleton from LifterLMS here. I'll be live for about the next hour or so answering any LifterLMS questions you have. LifterLMS pre-sales tech support wherever you're watching us, StreamYard, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're seeing this live. Feel free to drop any comments in the chat box here, and I will see those come in. My cat's jumping on the desk to feature in the video as well. Oh, no audio. Let's see. This is my audio still not coming through. Let me check the YouTube stream. It looks like it's coming through. Yeah, it looks like it's coming through there on YouTube and here in StreamYard with that audio check. But I see some people jumping in the chat. John, welcome to the call. Thompson, welcome. It looks like Evie. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Welcome everyone to the call. Let's see. So in this session, we're going to be talking about anything that you guys want to talk about. LifterLMS private site rolled out recently, LifterLMS Sky Pilot. We can pull up a demo site, share anything that anyone on the call has questions about. We don't have a specific presentation today, just any questions that come in we can dive into. And if there are no questions from people on the call here, we can pull up some Facebook, YouTube comments from the last week. Usually that's what we start out with and I dive into. So while some questions are coming in here in the chat, let me pull up the LifterLMS YouTube comments and see if we have any questions from the last week to kick it off. Close that down. So here's a question that came in. I'll drop it in the StreamYard chat. And Lisa in chat, awesome. Great to hear you brought some questions. Feel free to drop those in the chat and we will dive into those. The first question, this is one I found on YouTube from the last week. Move my cat from jumping in front of my screen all the time. Is it possible to have a drip method where the student has to complete a quiz at the end of a lesson in order to move on to the next lesson? So this is an interesting question. Let me pull up a demo site and show this. I think the short answer is yes, but I want to show you a little bit about how to do this. I would recommend for this case prerequisites. If I open up one of my demo sites here, I'll share my screen and demo a little bit of LifterLMS prerequisites. So make sure this comes up. Perfect. So in LifterLMS on a course, we can open up a course builder on any of my courses here. If we wanted to set a drip method where a student has to complete a quiz at the end of lesson 1 in order to move to lesson 2, that would be having a quiz here on lesson 1. Just make this published. We'll drop in a multiple choice question. I'll just put some test data here so I have a quiz that's present. And then what I would do is I would jump to my lesson 2 here, and I would set a prerequisite. So you have to complete the course welcome in order to move on to the lesson with quiz. So as a part of completing the first lesson here, the quiz is of course going to be a part of that. And so in this case, you do have to complete the quiz. And if there was an assignment present, you would also have to complete the assignment in order to be able to move on to lesson 2. So prerequisites are what I would recommend there. It's similar to drip. Drip is going to actually be a little bit different. We can see I actually do have a drip method. I would have no drip method and a prerequisite setup. You can combine drip method and prerequisite. So you can say one day after prerequisite lesson completion, you can move on to lesson 2. So you complete the quiz, complete lesson 1, wait one day, then move to lesson 2. Or you could just say, as soon as you complete lesson 1, you can move on to lesson 2. Either way you want to do that. Stop my screen share there. Cool. Question from Lisa here in the chat. Can the course catalog be displayed without the images such as a list of courses rather than the larger block setup. I'm trying to think of maybe the best way to do that. In LifterLMS out of the box, there's not like a list view for the course catalog. Of course, you could list post types. Let me actually play around with this a little bit. I've seen blocks in WordPress that allow you to show items in a list. So this would be a little bit different than the LifterLMS course catalog. I want to see if I can list the posts. So this is like catalog. I thought there was like a list block somewhere. List. You could, of course, use a manually created list for this post list. This is kind of what I was envisioning. I've seen add-ons before and like different things like an Elementor or Divi or Cadence blocks that allow you to list posts of a certain post type. So we could say make a list of courses. Yeah. This is actually asking me to make a pattern. Can I start blank? You basically want title and date. Can I change the post type though? So this is going to, by default, grab my blog posts. This is going to be a list of my blog posts, but can I make this a query loop? Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like we can create this setup with what was a query loop block. I think I've never used the query loop block before. I knew this concept would probably exist. And it looks like that is a query loop. Yeah, so that's native in WordPress. So that's awesome. So it looks like what we can do is we would replace the course catalog, probably by adding a redirect. So when someone views our regular course catalog, we would switch them over with a redirect plugin. Like redirection is a free plugin on the WordPress repository, where you can say if someone lands on my, and I'll actually just do it here as a demo. I would put on this free redirection plugin, install this, activate that. And then what that's going to do is add tools redirection as a new option in my WordPress area. And when you first install this plugin, it's going to go through a little setup wizard. I don't need any of this stuff. Just give it a second to run through its little setup wizard. Finish setup. Ready to go. Okay, so this is the interface that I'm used to seeing here, where we can create a redirect. What I would do is go to my pages. I need to have a source URL and a redirect URL. So this is my course catalog page right now. So it's /courses. And if someone goes to /courses, I want them to instead go to Will's new catalog. So on the back end of my site under tools redirection, I would say if somebody ends on my courses URL, I want them to go to Will's new catalog. So this way, if someone were to, now that I have that created, we can view the course catalog, and it should take me over to Will's new catalog, where we have things formatted in the list. And it looks like, is my query loop not linked up? Just make sure this is linked up. Post template. Post date. So this is like a list of, yeah, so make title a link. That's what I want to do. Link to course, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to check these two boxes, so I'm making sure I'm linking to it. It had a list of my courses, but it wasn't linking to my courses. And so now it's linked up. So if I go back to my course catalog, it's going to redirect me to Will's new catalog, and then I can link to my courses this way. And of course, I only have 3 showing per page, but you can modify that and have multiple per page. Yeah, so I see questions in chat here. Yeah, so courses are a custom post type that work perfectly with that query loop block. So that's awesome. That's my first time using the query loop block. I've used similar functionality before, but it's good to know that's possible in the back end of WordPress just natively. WordPress keeps coming out with new features for the block editor that make it really enticing to use to build websites. We had a question here in chat. Does your own site use the SkyPilot theme? It does. LifterLMS.com is now on the SkyPilot theme. And that was an interesting transition. I'll present the LifterLMS website here. Interesting transition. We were wanting to move to the LifterLMS SkyPilot theme on our main website and trying to figure out how we're going to migrate a theme. Migrating a theme is a really complex thing to do sometimes, a very intimidating process, because we have users on our website buying products, taking courses, managing their accounts, submitting support tickets, and we're like, how are we going to take on this big project of migrating our website that has hundreds of pages and courses and all kinds of other functionality on there into a new theme? And what we ended up doing was just scoping out the project and realizing that the easiest and fastest way for us to do it would be to just change the theme from our old theme, which was custom, to and we had that theme for like 8 years, to the new LifterLMS SkyPilot theme, and we'll fix things as we go. For example, there's one page on our website, recommended resources, that we link to a lot, that we still have yet to get over here and fix up the formatting. And like we have to recreate these buttons. So functionally, when you switch a theme, a lot of the functionality of your website will stay the same, assuming that like not a lot of functionality was built into your theme. And the formatting might look a little bit weird as you migrate, but that's what we did, migrating LifterLMS.com to SkyPilot. And then academy.lifterlms.com also uses SkyPilot. This migration was a lot easier. This is just a simple online course website. There's not really a whole lot of functionality going on here other than courses. So our expert designer, Kim, she did a ton of work bringing SkyPilot to life from the designs that we had from our previous designer, Matt Bumby, and then who did a lot of design work creating the concepts. And then Kim really brought it to life with the CSS and the code and all that. And then me and Kim were on here taking the old site with the images and making sure it looked good in the new SkyPilot. So academy.lifterlms.com and lifterlms.com are both using that SkyPilot theme. Another question here. Is it possible to offer registration as a radio button or checkbox option so the student could select multiple courses and pay at one time? LifterLMS out of the box with the access plan system only allows a purchase of a single course or membership at an individual time. And from Tamsin in chat, no problem. Feel free to drop any other questions in the chat as well. So while being allowed to purchase only one course or membership at a time, there are limitations with, like you're saying here, we can only go through and purchase one access plan. If you have a membership, you can have auto enrollment. So one membership purchase can enroll people in 10 courses, unlimited courses within one purchase. But there's not really like a checkbox option in LifterLMS currently. If you did want to have that cart feature, that's sort of what's missing from the Lifter functionality. From a functionality standpoint, would be the cart feature. And that's where like a tool like WooCommerce would come in, where if you use the LifterLMS WooCommerce integration, all of the e-commerce of your website goes through WooCommerce, and so you're leveraging the product and cart functionality that WooCommerce has, where Lifter is more focused on the LMS part, and the e-commerce component and purchasing component is a little bit secondary to the e-learning focus. But you can use LifterLMS alongside WooCommerce if you wanted the e-commerce functionality and flexibility with the cart and upsells and all that kind of stuff in WooCommerce, as well as the LMS functionality from Lifter. You can use the two together for that cart functionality. And I'll share my screen for anyone who is checking out the stream afterwards and is curious about what we're talking about here. With LifterLMS, if I edit my course, I have access plans over here. On each course and each membership has an access plan option where you can create the rules for how someone would enroll in this course. In this example, I have a la carte course as my title, and it's a $500 one-time payment. We could set up, subscription payments and all kinds of setups if I wanted, $50 a month for all time, or If I wanted this to be $50 one-time payment, but it expires after 6 months, I could do that. It's a very flexible access plan system, but there's not a functionality for having multiple course purchases in one order, unless, of course, you have like an all-inclusive membership. Like on this website, I have an Academy membership, and this Academy membership includes access to via auto enrollment to all these courses. So if you buy this membership, you're going to get access to all of these courses. So there's a couple different ways to manage that access within Lifter. Another question here. Once a student adds a course to their cart, is it possible to have a continue shopping button or search additional courses button? So that kind of goes back to that previous question about with WooCommerce, absolutely, because they have that cart feature, add to cart, and then you can choose to redirect people to the cart. They could leave the cart, come back. But with LifterLMS out of the box, there's not really the cart option, so they would just go through an individual access plan. If I navigate to the checkout screen for my membership, what's that? Oh, I might be enrolled in this membership. Let me change to view as a visitor. No, maybe I just don't have an access plan. Oh, it's there. Display to everyone. Oh, maybe I don't have a payment gateway set up. Let me confirm. I do have a gateway set up. What is going on? Here's this group only visible to certain people. Yeah, I'm going to display this to everyone. I'm running into enrollment visibility. I'm a website admin in this case, so I'm running into some weird enrollment stuff. So I'm going to turn off enrollment visibility, choose an access plan. Is the access plan block also limited with visibility? No. That looks perfect. Am I enrolled in this thing already? I'll go to an incognito window and see if I can view it that way. Oh, I'm using LifterLMS private site. Yeah, I'm working with a site that I was on a webinar yesterday with, so I'm of course on a demo site messing up all my settings, running into my own issues of my own creation here. Let's turn that off so I can view my website. But memberships, view. I'm still not seeing choose an access plan. I'll just head to the checkout page directly. If I jump into courses only purchase link, okay, that's the problem. I'm already enrolled in the membership. I'm kind of troubleshooting live a little bit here as to why this isn't working for me. Arthur Wells. I'm signed into the website as Arthur Wells, so I need to kick myself out of my own course. Order enrollment status is canceled. I'm kicked out of my membership. Hopefully I should be able to view it now. There we go. So now that I'm no longer enrolled in the course, I could click the access plan option to sign up, but there's not like a cart functionality here, so I can't leave and come back and keep editing this a little bit. But that's where WooCommerce will come in to really take the cart functionality to the next level. Question here in chat: is there a way of hosting third-party courses, setting up a revenue share model? With LifterLMS, there's not necessarily a revenue share model. Chris did put together a tutorial of LifterLMS Udemy, which is very useful. I'll put that one in the chat. LifterLMS Udemy. How to create a course marketplace site like Udemy. I'll share my screen and share the link. This resource is super valuable, and I think Nadia on our team went through and actually wrote out the whole blog post based on the video to explain kind of how this came together. And my Google Chrome is loading a little bit slow here. There it goes. So there's a video here, hour 30 minutes, where Chris talks about how to create a Udemy style course, and this does include revenue share because he's using a WooCommerce setup with Doken. I think it's Doken Marketplace, but this is the #1 might be WC product vendors. Let's see, create marketplace. So that's the best way to create a course marketplace with LifterLMS currently, is by checking out that video. I know Kurt, who's on our team and is frequently on these calls, also has a sort of a marketplace solution. So reaching out to Kurt from our LifterLMS experts page, lifterlms.com/experts. He's on here as Manana Namas. My top 2 recommendations for creating a course marketplace would be to reach out to Kurt and inquire about creating a course marketplace with LifterLMS via the LifterLMS experts page, and then also the blog post there about creating a Udemy clone. Because if you watch that video and you see, kind of click towards the end where Chris has kind of completed the tutorial, and see if you like the look of that website, like the functionality of what he put together, and you might be able to follow along exactly with what he did. He was definitely using WooCommerce and using WooCommerce product vendors and probably a few other tools to create that marketplace setup. And people were still on the back end of WordPress. That's something that comes up as a question a lot when creating a Udemy or course marketplace style setup, is that people don't like the look of the back end of WordPress. So they want to create kind of a front end course building experience, and that's not possible in LifterLMS out of the box to do the front end course creation experience. What I recommend typically is, if you don't like the look of the back end of WordPress, or your instructors don't like the look of the back end of WordPress, is Admin UI Pro is a really interesting product from, I think, Michael Short is WordPress product guy who put this one together. It's a really nice way to kind of spice up the back end of WordPress. So it makes the back end of WordPress look like not WordPress. So you can see in the functionality here that this is the same stuff we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing themes and plugins. This is a multi-site, so there's sites, settings, and users. This is all the same interface items that we're used to seeing, the media library, but you can customize how it looks. And so that's a really, really neat unlock, this tool. And I don't really use it a lot because I like the back end of WordPress. I've worked in WordPress for like better part of a decade now, and so I'm used to the interface. But if you don't like the interface or want to customize it a little bit, there are solutions in WordPress, even other than this one, that allow you to change what WordPress looks like fundamentally. And so that one's definitely worth checking out. That's Admin UI Pro. Customize local WordPress. Another question, can you offer bundles of courses? You can, yep. So course bundles wouldn't work like a shopping cart. Like we talked about with LifterLMS, there's not like a shopping cart feature built in, but there is a functionality for memberships to create course bundles. Like I have here, the Academy is basically a course bundle via this auto enrollment tool. In LifterLMS, it creates a bundle of all these courses. So if I wanted to add a membership and call it course bundle, and publish that, I'll drop into my auto enrollment tab any number of my courses I wanted to include in the bundle. We'll just put 3 courses in there. Oops. Course template is already included. There we go. So if I decided that these 3 courses were going to be a part of my course bundle, I would put them in my membership, and then I would add an access plan. Bundle one-time payment. This would be, a $400 for the course bundle. Lifetime access is good, and I'll save changes. So now I've got my my membership created, course bundle, $400 one-time payment. And one feature that is a common question is, how can I display the courses included in my membership on the membership? And Lifter doesn't currently have a function for that. So what we would want to do is create a course category for the 3 courses that I included in my enrollment. I don't remember exactly which one it was. I think it was like a clone course. I think emergency budgeting. I have a ton of sample courses on this website, but if I had my courses that I'm including in my bundle, we'll just say it's these ones. I would throw these into a category, and then I would display courses by category on my membership page, just to kind of highlight what courses are included. I could also write up a custom sales page or description for that as well. Question from Luke in the chat. Once a course is built, is it possible to move it to a subdomain? That is an interesting question. With courses directly, each course in LifterLMS, if I go back out to my course list page, there's this option to export. And so if you click this button to export, it's going to download a JSON file to your computer. And what that'll do is allow you to import the course content, including quizzes, lessons, images that are included in your lessons, assignments, any data that is in that course is in this JSON file. And so you can go to your subdomain. Let's see, I'll just do it on this website because I don't have a subdomain available right now, but I would go to my subdomain and I would go to LifterLMS import, and then I would upload my my JSON file. Click import on that. And so if we imagine this is the subdomain, I've got a second saving strategy course that I just created, and it has all the same metadata as the old course, but you can import the course. And this does not import the users, though. That's the main challenge, is that we took all the course data, lesson data, quiz, and all that kind of stuff, but we did not take the users. So while I just exported and imported a course, the users didn't come with that, and the user progress is not with that. So the course content can be super easily migrated, but the user data is a little bit more complex, or a lot more complex, unfortunately, with that. So hopefully that kind of helps to answer that question. There's not like an out-of-the-box way to migrate the user data, unless you're taking like all the user data of your website and migrating it to a different website, which still would require some database work to change out the database tables with user progress and users and all that. But just exporting course content is super easy. We see that a lot with websites that are using like continuing education, where they'll create course. My cat, I have a young cat that keeps biting my hand and knocking stuff on my desk on the floor. And so I'm like answering Lifter pre-sales questions while also fighting my cat, who's very interested in playing right now. So sorry about that interruption, but the yeah, so the data is super easy to migrate for the course itself, but not as much for the users. With continuing education, you can create a course, export that course, and like sell it to other organizations and create them a LifterLMS website and give them their own copy of the course on their own domain, and give the users of that organization, the employees, the employers, or the site owners access to the reporting. So that's something we frequently see is, if I were to sell my training to an organization, I would buy a subdomain, or I would buy a domain or create a subdomain with that organization's name and import my course over there, and then give those organization leaders access to the back end of the WordPress website. That's a super common thing to do. Super common thing to do. And luckily, LifterLMS export import makes that easy enough. What kind of reporting is available? For example, if a member has unlimited access, how much detail can we see about which courses they're taking, how much time they're spending on them, etc.? So on the back end of LifterLMS, under LifterLMS reporting, we have all kinds of data, and this is just test data that we created for the demo sites, but there's a few different reports. The students report is going to list out all of our students, and once you have a lot of students, this report becomes less useful. I usually spend a lot of time in the course reporting. So for the business budgeting course, for example, if I wanted to see, some general data about this course, there's only 3 students currently enrolled in my course, but we can see some general statistics, sales revenue. Recent events is just kind of a nice thing to see, but these are some overview statistics, and you can change the date period that you're looking at the statistics for. And if you wanted to drill down a little bit deeper into students enrolled in this course, you can see all the students here as well, as in addition to their progress. And if we wanted to see a specific student on our website, I'll just click on this person. We can see the courses that this person is in. This is like Lane's data on the specific course, business budgeting. But I could also see what memberships they're enrolled in. If I jump back over here to courses, I can see Lane is enrolled here in all of these courses, and I can see he has 0% progress in all of his courses. So I could reach out to Lane specifically and be like, hey, what are you doing with progress? Is there anything we could do to get you integrated into the site more? Let's see. Then the next aspect of reporting I think that is pretty important to highlight is assignments and quizzes. If you do have quizzes or assignments that are manually graded on your website, you can see those in the assignments and quizzes tabs here in reporting. I think there's like awaiting review. There we go. Awaiting review as a tab that if a quiz or assignment requires review by an instructor, it'll enter this awaiting review section. I don't know if I have any examples of this. Oh, here we go. Lesson with assignment. So this is awaiting review. There's one, and it turns it bold temporarily to indicate that there's an instructor action needed. So Cade here has submitted an assignment, submission number 49, and I haven't graded this thing yet. The submission was hello. So I could leave instructor remarks and say like, I don't know, please retry the assignment. And I could delete the attempt or leave my remarks, 0%, save review. And that's all within this backend interface. So that's for like grading as a part of reporting, but then there's also like general statistics. And sometimes people want more in-depth reviews or in-depth reporting. And so if you did want to actually pull a more in-depth report, you could export this data via either the LifterLMS REST API with some custom development or with the LifterLMS export option here. So if I wanted to export my students in this course, I can export. A lot of these screens have an export button where you can download a CSV file and then parse out that information in Google Sheets, Excel, whatever tool that you use for parsing out spreadsheet data. You could get some more advanced reports for your organization that way. But feel free to drop any other questions you have in there. That's kind of an overview of LifterLMS reporting. So still in building mode, no students enrolled yet. Can the entire LMS be moved to a subdomain? The entire LMS be moved to a subdomain? Of course, courses can be easily moved. I think the challenge with moving the LMS component is that like the users table of your database is mixed in with, you've got your students in there, you've got your admins in there, you've got like all of your data on one website. You can migrate an entire WordPress website to a subdomain, but migrating just the LMS is a little bit of a challenge. My recommendation would probably be to explore options around migrating the entire website. So like if you take your live website, you have a marketing component and an LMS component on one website, and you want to separate it so you have a marketing website and an LMS website separate, you could copy the website to the subdomain. So it takes all of your marketing elements and LMS. You basically have two copies of the same website, one on your main domain, one in your subdomain. And then on your subdomain, you go in and remove all of the marketing elements. Like you would change the homepage and change maybe the look or the theme or whatever you're trying to change to create your LMS website. And then once you've successfully created your LMS subdomain, you've basically copied your site and stripped out all the marketing material. Then you could go to your main domain and then strip out all the LMS stuff. So you could delete the LifterLMS plugin from your main website because you already have your LifterLMS plugin on the subdomain created. So that's what I've done before with separating a site that's an entire business in one website. We want to separate the LMS component, separate the marketing blog component, just copy the website and then strip out the components on both websites that you want to remove. So that would kind of bring it full circle. And you'd want to do this at a period where maybe like in the middle of the night for like 2 hours, you would take your website down, put it in staging mode, and then make your copy, and then fix all your menu links, because your main website's going to still be linking to the internal LMS on its own website. So you would change your menu items to say, like, the item that says courses would actually link over to your subdomain, and your subdomain menu would link back over. It's like on LifterLMS.com and academy.lifterlms.com. Those two sites link back and forth to each other. And so that would be my recommendation for splitting them. Awesome. Great to hear. Well, that's all the questions that we had in the chat so far. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm going to keep going through. We got about 20 minutes left. I'm going to keep going through some YouTube comments. And feel free, if you're watching live anywhere, StreamYard, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter is where we're streaming to now. Drop any questions in the comments, and we can dive into those. Oh, I'm going to answer this question also from earlier. I answered it here on the call, but I didn't answer it in YouTube about drip method. So I'm going to write a reply real quick here on YouTube. Hello, you can set prerequisites on your lessons, so you have to complete lesson 1 quiz before moving to lesson 2. Prerequisites. LifterLMS prerequisites. Grab a documentation link. Any other questions? Oh, here we go. Another question came in here. Like this. How do I make an audio file on each lesson in the sidebar? Each lesson has a different audio file. That's a good question. In the sidebar, so there's a lot of layers to that question. In WordPress in Lifter, I'll share my screen. We can Lifter reporting. Pull this thing back up. There we go. Courses. In our lessons, we can include audio files or any kind of file that we want. Oh, let me reshare. I gotta share my window. It opens in a new tab when you do that. So should be, yeah, okay, cool. My window's appearing. So in our lesson, we can include any kind of file. We can include an audio file from our WordPress media library. We can include a button that links to an audio file, or we could even embed, I think we can embed SoundCloud directly in WordPress. So there's a lot of ways we can include an audio file just in our WordPress content. But this question about adding a file in the sidebar is a little bit more complex, because the sidebar isn't really a part of the lesson content. You know, like our lesson content is individual to that post. If I put like a paragraph on my course welcome lesson, that's going to be a part of my course welcome lesson. But then my sidebar content is actually determined by the theme. And in my case, I have the LifterLMS Sky Pilot theme, and the Sky Pilot theme is putting a progress bar here at the top and a syllabus here. So every one of my lessons is following the same template. And we can get a little bit more advanced by using something called advanced custom fields. This is a nice tool to know about in WordPress that allows you to create custom fields in your lessons, and then we just need to find a way to display those fields. So if we add advanced custom fields, I'm kind of figuring this out as I go to a little bit with this specific question. I've done this in Elementor a lot of times, but in WordPress out of the box, I don't think I've done this before. So this would be my lesson custom fields. So we just want one custom field. And it's going to be field type. This is an audio file. Is audio a thing? I don't know. URL. So this will be a URL to my audio file for lesson. That's my field name. Cool. Save. I'm going to save that. Oh, wait, I have one more thing to do. Settings, rules, post type is equal to lesson. If the post type is equal to lesson, we're going to display this custom field. Cool. So now if I edit my lesson again, hopefully we should see this. There it is. So this advanced custom field plugin lets me create these little fields on my lessons. And so now that I have audio file down there at the bottom, I could drop in a URL to my audio file. I don't have an audio file. So we're just going to use an image file. So I would drop in an image file, the URL there. But the challenge is now that I have it designated as my audio file, but it doesn't really display anywhere. So we got to figure out how to make this thing display dynamically. In Elementor, I'm used to something called dynamic content, where we can say display whatever the audio file is for this post type here. So we got to figure out some kind of um, dynamic way to display this. Like usually, like when we decide what a link is going to be for a button, this is button. Oh, I was looking for these settings up here at the top. There we go. So yeah, we would have to like determine the URL for the lesson dynamically right here. I've done this in Cadence blocks before in the Cadence theme. I'm trying to think of how we would dynamically pull the URL in SkyPilot. Custom field. We don't have like a way to pull that custom field. So really the main challenge with this question, and we have another question coming in here in the live call, is just determining how we would do this in the course builder. I know Honors WP made something that was pretty useful for this. Let me see if I can find James's post. Friends with James on Facebook, but I lose things in Facebook all the time. I want to see. He made a WordPress product for this that works perfectly. Hopefully I can scroll through his timeline fast enough to find it. I'll circle back to this question. This was a question from YouTube. I'll dive into this question here in a second. I want to figure out how to solve this one, though. I know there's a way in WordPress with this plugin from James, but I don't remember what the plugin's called. So we'll dive back into that question here in a second. Quick question about video hosting. Our lessons are quite lengthy video tutorials. I've seen you use YouTube, but we're concerned about ads showing on YouTube. I think you can also use Vimeo. What about VideoPress? Do you have any recommendations? Yeah, so anything that can be embedded in WordPress could be embedded in your LifterLMS. So we can see here on my lesson, I have my the WordPress block editor available. So I can do an embed block. I could do like a Vimeo embed block. I could even do HTML if I needed to use an iframe or something. But anything that would work on a WordPress blog post or page can be embedded inside of LifterLMS. So I've never worked with VideoPress before, but if it can work in WordPress pages, you should be good to go with that. I usually use Vimeo, and the reason I go with Vimeo is because there's a feature of LifterLMS, an add-on called LifterLMS Advanced Videos. LifterLMS Advanced Videos allows you to require students watch the entire video before moving on. So sometimes websites will say, we have to have you watch this whole video before being able to move on because we're giving you a certification credit for taking the course. And so we have to guarantee that you watch the video. And that advanced videos product only works with Vimeo, Wistia, and YouTube. So if you're trying to require students complete videos in order to complete lessons, you do have to use Vimeo or Wistia or YouTube with LifterLMS Advanced Videos. But for just embedding any kind of video in WordPress and showing to your students, and it's not required to complete, anything that can be embedded in WordPress will work. I typically use Vimeo just because it's easy. I think actually on my personal course sites, I don't even know what my video host is called. I built a bunch of course sites years ago. It's something. Someone came on the LMS Cast podcast and had a video hosting company, and I signed up with it. And I don't even remember what it's called, but so I'm not requiring advanced videos though to complete the lesson. So on a client sites, I frequently recommend Vimeo because it's just so easy to collaborate. But any video host would work. Oh, Wistia, Vimeo, Wistia, YouTube. Those three. Wistia is. I'll go over here. My new tab. Wistia.com. This is a competitor to Vimeo, pretty comparable. This is like, I think Vimeo and Wistia are the main competitors in the space. Both of them do just about the same thing. You just look at their packages and see how they're like, video hosts have so many of these features and they're all in different plans and all this stuff. So you could just compare the two, Vimeo, Wistia. I usually lean towards Vimeo. Yeah, it's just, I think LifterLMS used Wistia. I think we wanted to migrate to Vimeo, but I don't know if we did it yet. Pretty comparable product offerings though. Video hosting, also for anyone watching, is a really good idea. Sometimes I see people upload videos to their WordPress media library and then it slows down the website significantly. So I recommend video hosting pretty heavily. So what video hosting does is by putting your large MP4 file that's like 500 megabytes to a gigabyte in size, instead of putting that on your website hosting server to use the same resources that you're trying to serve your HTML of your website with, that's going to slow everything down. So by putting these massive video files over on a different hosting company like Vimeo, Wistia, YouTube, VideoPress, whatever you want to use for video hosting, it makes it a lot faster to load the web page. You can see when I was loading that LifterLMS documentation, the video from YouTube took a little bit to load in, even though the web page loaded and I had all my text and images on the web page, the video took a minute to load. And if that video was in the backend of LifterLMS.com, the entire page would have taken a lot longer to load because it would have waited for the entire video to be loaded in order to serve the page and say like, all right, you've got all the text and images. Now here's a 300 megabyte video. When the average web page size is a couple megabytes, we're now served, like it's slowing down significantly. So by putting the video on a different website and serving it that way, we can really speed up our website loading time. If you have a small video, like a background video, that's like a loop, that's like 5 seconds. Sometimes I'll put that right in the back end of my WordPress media library. But for larger videos, video hosting is really good. I'm gonna keep messing around with this question here in the meantime, trying to figure out what was that plugin that they had. It was really good. James was talking about it. Very excited about it. Well, I'll look around in the WordPress plugin repo real quick. Just anything that can give me dynamic content and blocks is really what I'm looking for. I don't. WordPress dynamic content blocks. Is there like an advanced custom field block? Search. That's custom fields for pods. Look up how to get advanced custom field content in WordPress post. I mean, so we got our field created, and now I just need it to show up in a block. Like Gutenberg advanced custom fields. State of ACF in a Gutenberg world. That sounds like a good resource for solving this problem. The block editor in WordPress is like a bunch of 1-star reviews about Gutenberg. This block editor that is now the native WordPress block editor is a project, I think it was like 2018, Gutenberg. People hated it. But now it's just so popular. The ability to create buttons and control everything is really kind of coming around. And the features are getting a lot stronger as they continue to progress it. But I made my field, I designated my URL, and I don't know how to use. So I don't want to register my block with custom field with PHP. This is like creating a custom block. That's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find some kind of out-of-the-box solution. This is nice. Delicious brains are smart people. Scrollable image block toggle block. I want the URL thing. ACF media meta display. This might be what I'm looking for here. ACF block suite. Let's try this. See if this works for what I'm trying to do. Install this. So just to highlight again, while we don't have any questions coming in, there was a question on YouTube about creating an audio file in the sidebar of lessons. And for this, we need to use something called dynamic content, which is a little bit more advanced. And so I'm just kind of problem solving here live to see if we can get this. But if anyone live has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat wherever you're watching, and we can dive into your questions as well. But I'm going to keep kind of banging my head against the wall with this in the meantime. Okay. That's nice. So I've got my audio file designated because I created my custom field. But there are cadence blocks, which is cool. Where's this ACF thing? I'll try advanced buttons from cadence blocks too. That might work. I also should probably just watch the tutorial about how to use the product. Remove this thing here. What is the advanced button? Can that do what I want? Oh, there we go. We found it. So this is nice. This is using cadence blocks. Cadence blocks has a feature called advanced buttons. Cadence blocks is a free plugin. I'm not even using. There's probably a way to do it here too. I didn't read the tutorial. I'm kind of infamous for not reading the tutorial and just kind of trying to do it. Let's just temporary deactivation. So what I ended up using here is a tool that was on my site called Cadence Blocks, a free plugin in WordPress. Advanced buttons has an option for dynamic link. That's what I want. Oh, I have to upgrade to Pro. I was presenting this like it was going to work. But you got to upgrade to Pro. Dynamic stuff is really powerful. What dynamic content basically does is it says that we're going to populate the URL of this button based on a dynamic field on your post. I actually have access to the Cadence Pro thing, but I'm not going to set it up right now. But this would allow me to designate the URL for this button to be this. And the question was specifically, how do I put this in the sidebar though? And I'm putting it in the main lesson content area. Even though I'm putting it in the main lesson content area, I could move this button over to the sidebar and it would work the same via dynamic content. Let me try this thing again. Let me try ACF block suite. How does this work? If I can figure it out with this. So this is showing me content design. I want to figure out how I can do like this might not even be kind of what I'm looking for. It says ACF, Advanced Custom Fields, there at the top. Scrollable image block, toggle block, accordion block, slider block. Important notice, ACF blocks is built on top of Advanced Custom Fields Pro. Okay, so it requires Advanced Custom Fields Pro to function. Okay, well, I guess we're kind of at about the hour, so I'll wrap it up here for today. But basically, to answer that last question, what we need to do is figure out how we're going to serve this dynamic content in the sidebar. So I have my lesson URL set for my audio file, and then what I would do in the SkyPilot theme, this is also possible in the Cadence Pro theme and in Elementor and in Divi pretty easily, but I'm just trying to hack it together with the block editor and see what we can do. But what we would do is go to our templates, and in the lesson template for lesson sidebar, single lesson, edit single lesson. This is the sidebar over here where we were seeing the progress, we were seeing the syllabus. We would put a button here, not there. We would put a button right here, you know, an advanced button maybe. Whatever way that we have to display this URL, we would say here, I want to use whatever the lesson audio file is going to be the URL in the button. So that's how we would put it together, where whatever our lesson audio file is designated as, that's going to be the URL for the button in the sidebar of each lesson. So then we would, of course, write download in the sidebar, and then we would designate the URL. But it looks like I've got to buy the Cadence Blocks Pro here in order to make that work. But then that would come together. So we would say which field is the URL field, and then we would set the URL field, of course, that we said it was called like lesson something. ACF field, what was it called? It was lesson audio file for lesson. So that's the URL that would go in the button for each lesson. So that's how we would add the button to the sidebar. Looks like it requires some pro functionality. It makes sense. That's kind of more advanced, so it makes sense that like product developers are making that a part of their pro plugin because it's a more advanced use case than just out of the box. But dynamic content is super powerful for anyone who is new to WordPress. Dynamic content can be kind of intimidating. We're used to writing on a WordPress page what the content of that page is, but we can also say whatever the certain field is what's going to be populated for that post. It comes into play when using templates. So if every post type, every blog post is using a template, you can use the custom fields or to fill out like what is the blog title, what would be a custom field you'd put on a blog post? Maybe like sources. Sources isn't a field that WordPress has. Like you have a title, you have a content area, and a featured image, but sources isn't a thing. So you could use advanced custom fields to create a sources field, and then you could fill out the sources field, and then with this pro version or anything that allows you to use dynamic content, you would put the sources field in your template for your blog post, and that way each blog post includes the sources that you list inside of each post dynamically. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But that was, a little deep dive on dynamic content as well as some other items for LifterLMS Q&A. Question from John. Is this a weekly call preset schedule that I can put on my calendar? Isn't it usually on Thursdays? Yeah. So yeah, John, you're right. It is usually on Thursdays, usually Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Tomorrow, Thursday, I'm actually traveling. I'm going to where Chris is at in Maine. I'm flying out. I'm in Minnesota. I'm flying over to Maine so I'll be traveling tomorrow. So that's why we moved it over to today. And just for this call. And next Thursday is still up in the air. I removed the call from the calendar for next week because next week is WordCamp Europe. Me and Chris are going to go from Maine to Europe next week, and so we'll definitely be doing live calls, and we'll be doing something. We'll send out some emails, but since I don't know exactly when we'll be doing lives, since we'll be kind of working around WordCamp Europe, next week is like tentatively canceled, but we're going to do all kinds of live stuff next week. So it's a little bit of a weird schedule this week, weird schedule next week, but then the following week we're going to be back to a regular schedule of Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Back on the regular schedule after that. So that's going to be LifterLMS.com community events is what I recommend checking out. LifterLMS.com/community-events, or you could just Google LifterLMS community events. That's the number one place I go to check. But thanks, John, and thanks everyone else for joining me today on the LifterLMS pre-sales call, and I'll see you next time we're live. Thanks, everybody.